Hello again, and welcome to the second part of this episode of Let's Make Animation. We continue where we left off. In the last part, I explored different ideas for the character and even copied from other well-known characters, just to put something down and to generate ideas so that we can ignore design aspects and focus more on the action that needs to take place. Now that we kind of know what the shape of the character is, I'm going to spend more time on action. You'll notice that my hand is warmed up now, and I'm a lot more confident to draw the figure. So I'm doing a run cycle here, and the quickest way to do that is just to flip the image and have it repeat a couple of times. So you're going to see me do that in a minute. Again, I'm putting in those fluorescent stripes, iconic to Tron. Most likely we will never use that. There you can see I'm copying the layer and just flipping it a couple of times. I'm also thinking about camera movement. So I'm shrinking down the character in the background as we're pulling back. The best way to approach a pullback shot would be to draw out the entire background on the large canvas and just shrink it down. But since I'm making everything up as I'm going, I'm constantly having to expand on the background drawing. You see that I'm a big fan of using motion blur and radial blur to create the illusion of motion. You should be careful, though, not to overdo it. We still want our image to read well on screen, and motion blur will often destroy it. You can always, like I've done here, just put in some speed lines just to indicate that the character is moving fast. Here I'm expanding on the background again, just making a new layer and just drawing on it. Taking the shades from the previous layer and shading that in. I'm going to do that in a minute. There's some radial blur again, just to show the speed of the action. You can see I'm scaling the character down as the camera is pulling back to make it seem like the camera is moving a little bit faster than the character is. It's also a nice idea to show your audience new aspects of the background before the character reaches it. Kind of like an anticipation. You shouldn't surprise your audience with new objects in the screen. So that's kind of the reason why when you do a pullback, you want to pull back the camera a little bit faster than the character, because oh, my dog's barking there. Sorry for that. You want to pull back the camera a little bit faster than the character, just because you want to show the audience in advance what's coming. Although I'm not too worried about perspective, I like to place a cube or something on a flat surface like this building, just to make the object read in 3D space. Shading also helps with creating depth in your image. Generally, objects that are farther away will be shaded lighter, and objects closer to the camera will be shaded darker. As we're extending the background, the buildings in the background, the far background, change with every frame. But we're not concentrating on the buildings back there. We're focusing on the character. Extending the set. I'm constantly, when I'm extending the set, I'm constantly making a new layer because I want to use the previous layer in the previous comp so that I can make a new comp. And as you see there, there's almost no detail in that character. It's literally just shapes, it's a silhouette, but we read that character. We can instantly see that it's the same character as the previous frames. And those fluorescent stripes don't really improve the character, so most likely we're going to get rid of that. Sometimes motion blur will destroy your image. What I like to do in that case is to duplicate the layer and motion blur the bottom layer and merge everything back together. That way the motion blur is there on the bottom, but I still retain the crispness of the image on top. I think also a nice silhouette read for this character would be the hair that's always in motion. That's what's nice about storyboards. Storyboards, although they don't focus on design, they give you a lot of ideas. So after you've done storyboards and we go into concept design, a lot of the ideas are already given to you. You can immediately see what worked, what did not work, how can you improve on things. These background drawings really slowed me down. In episode 2, I'll spend a lot more time on the actions of the character and less time drawing backgrounds. Once a background or setting has been established, you generally don't need to constantly redraw it for the audience to follow along. But as soon as the setting changes or you go to another angle, you need to orient the audience. Otherwise, it just gets lost. Now, in this case, with the pullback, we constantly need to remind our audience where we are. Because at any moment we can go left or right or up or down. And we constantly want to tell our audience we're still going back, we're still going back. What I also do is the background, I just turn down the opacity to like 50% or something and make a new layer and draw the character then. So it's almost like a light table. I can still see the background, but it's more comfortable to draw the character now. For a moment there, I wanted to draw a circle on the back, almost like the discs of Tron, And I realized, no, that's pushing it a bit too far. But it's good. It's nice to take inspiration from everywhere. Um, it's good to watch successful movies or popular movies, and uh, or look at stories and incorporate that. See how far you can push it to until it becomes your own. It's not good to copy, but it's always nice to take inspiration from anywhere you can find it. When I stepped through the animation, I realized that it's not flowing correctly. So I went back and just added another frame so that it's not such a huge jump. You always want your storyboards to flow evenly. You don't necessarily have to make it look animated, but uh, your storyboard shouldn't be jarring. The audience should always know where they are. And I realized I need to show that platform that she's landing on. I need to show that ahead of time before she actually touches down. And now it's working. Again, duplicating the background, shrinking it down. What you can always do for set extension is just select the edges and then just transform and just scale it out. Since we're using radial blur, it doesn't really make a difference, but when you scrub through the layer comps, it still feels like the set is shrinking, we're going back. I always use the previous frame of the character. I just turn down the opacity so I can still see it, just to keep my proportions kind of in the same ballpark. You don't want your character to suddenly grow or shrink. And don't be afraid to break joints when you're drawing. You can see in this leg, I'm completely breaking the knee and ankle. But when you step through the layer comps, it flows very nicely as a fluid motion. I come from a traditional animation background, and breaking joints is a valuable tool to slow your animation down and to make fast actions read well. There's always a danger when you're animating that you're getting strobing in fast actions. Now, in traditional animation, we generally draw in twos, which amounts to 12 frames per second. And if it's a fast motion, we draw it in 24 frames a second. But sometimes even 24 frames a second isn't enough. And breaking joints is a very, very good tool. Yeah, that's flowing much better. Shrinking it down again. Now I want to change the perspective a bit, so I'm actually compressing that platform and extending the set again. No, I'm going to draw it from scratch. Sometimes transform can only get you so far, and then you have to redraw it. And just color picking and shading those objects. It's sometimes also nice, what I've found there is to turn off the transfer, your pen pressure transfer for the opacity, and just have one shade. Sometimes you want the hard and soft of the pen pressure, but for shading we don't really mind this because it's only a flat shade. there I'm seeing that the perspective of that platform is it's not right, and I've changed it again. And even though I'm not touching on the objects at the back, I'm just changing the platform in front. You immediately get that sense that the camera is moving down. Something that's working in our advantage is that objects closer to the camera move a lot faster than objects far away. So if an object like a moon or something that is very far away might not move at all, whereas objects in the foreground will move very fast. So it's a neat trick that we can get away with. And even this is kind of a weird pose. If this was an illustration, it would be a really, really funny pose to draw. But for storyboards or animatics, something that flows through, you hardly notice that pose. It just goes through very, very quickly. Okay, it looks like my time is up again. Please leave your comments. I'd appreciate your input. Also, like and subscribe to this channel. It'll help me out a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.